ever wish you made more time to be creative and make cool stuff? You wish that you were someone who practiced art regularly or did cool crafts or just had some sort of creative hobby, but you never quite seem to have time to get around to it? Well, I am guilty. I am a full-time creative professional for a living, and sometimes I go months without just making stuff for fun. Sometimes the hardest part of making art or just starting a new hobby is actually knowing where to start. There is a stupid amount of mental energy that is involved in picking what you're going to make and buying supplies and finding tutorials and learning the instructions and getting the techniques down and even picking what subject you're going to make. And all of that stuff kind of keeps the inertia of actually making the thing. There are way too many things between you and actually doing the thing. And the Netflix button is like right there. So recently I had a bit of an epiphany. You know how meal kit services like Blue Apron or HelloFresh can actually get you to cook more often? Not because they unlock some sort of magical cooking ability, but because they take the thinking out of choosing recipes and shopping and ingredient prep, right? The steps between you and a finished meal are greatly reduced. So what if we treated creativity the same way and actually got some help? So you'd spend less time wallowing in the existential dread of, am I a creative human? And more time just like dabbling in a fun creative thing. What if some of the thinking was done for you? So you could just pick something up when you had a spare hour or have something to do with your hands while you're watching Netflix. That thought got me really excited. So I did a little bit of digging, and it turns out there are a bunch of companies that are basically like meal kits, but for like creative hobbies. And there are so many different types of things you can try. So today I thought I would put together a little list of all of the favorite companies that I found to see if maybe something sparks some inspiration for you and you want to give one of these a try. Maybe I can help you find your next project and we can get a little bit less stuck and a little bit more creative on a regular basis. These do not have to be masterpieces to be fun. Real quick, if we're just meeting, I'm Janelle. I've been a freelance graphic designer for 15 years now, and this is my little space to talk about design and freelance life and how to have a creative business without losing your soul, and also just to do some fun creative experiments, which is what we're doing today. So if that sounds like fun, hit the subscribe button because I'd love to hang out again. Okay, let's dive in. As a quick note, none of these are sponsored. I don't have any relationships with anyone. I'm not even using affiliate links. These are just things that I thought were cool and it was worth sharing. All right, so the first category are what I'm calling craft variety boxes. Basically, there are some that are like a subscription box, so every month you get sent a new project of a different kind, so you can try different things and see what you like. Or there are some that are more like a marketplace, so you can browse things and see if anything strikes your fancy and buy a one-off thing. The first one is called Craft Club, which is adorable. They have different bundles that you can make to put together your own kind of little package, or you can do little one-off kits. They're mainly focused on textile-based crafts, so they have things like latch hooking and cross-stitch and crochet. I really love these moss things they make. You can make little rugs or coasters that look like a little fairy woodland garden path, and they're just adorable. I've never seen anything like this anywhere else, and for some reason it's very inspiring to me. So I might have to get some moss happening soon. The next one is called This Month's Craft, and this fits into the subscription model. They have two different options. You can do like a crafter's box or a maker's box, and then every month they'll send you a different thing in that kind of idea. So the craft one is more like soap making and embroidery, and the maker one is more like woodworking and more like physical with your hands things. I like that you can choose which works for you, and honestly I feel like this is a pretty reasonable price for the quality of the materials that you're getting. You just have to decide if you want something more regularly or if you want to do a one-off. But I feel like this is a really good option if you want something that forces you to be creative more regularly and try your hand at a bunch of different stuff. The next one is called Crafter, and they have a subscription called the Crafter's Box, which sends you different crafts each month. They also have a digital subscription, so if you don't want to have all of the materials, but you want to have instructions and motivation to do stuff without extra things, this might be a good option. All right, the last sort of grab bag service I found is called Adults and Crafts, and this has a lot more options of different types of crafts that are a little bit more varied than some of the other ones I found, and there's some really cute options. They're one-offs, so you can pick something that works for you, but they have a lot of fun projects like resin and wood burning and candles and soap. So if you want to try like a lot of different things, but you want to choose them, this could be a fun one. Personally, resin has always really scared me, and it seems really technical, like you have to have a lot of specialized equipment. So I love the idea of trying one of these tray kits because I think it would kind of get me going and see if it's something I actually want to do. I love the idea of using these as sort of shopping around for your next hobby to see if there's something that you actually want to sink your teeth into and your budget into long term, or if this was just like kind of a fun one-off. Sometimes you don't know what you're going to gravitate to, and I cannot be the only person who's gotten locked into the idea of a new hobby, bought a bunch of stuff for it, and then done it like exactly one time. I love the idea of using a kit because it gives you the chance to kind of test the waters and see if this is something you actually really like before you get really invested into buying a bunch of stuff to do it on your own. So you can play around a little bit without the guilt of the like ghosts of hobbies past looming over you with all these extra supplies you have like stuffed around from things that you're never going to pick up again. Maybe that's just me. The next general category is a doozy, and it's what I'm calling textile arts. There are so many different hobbies that require some fairly like technical skill sets or like really specialized equipment somewhere in the field of textiles, right? Crocheting and knitting and embroidery and all this stuff. So I found different companies that have kits for really specific types of things. So if you just want to try your hand at latch hooking, I got you. I love this one called Clever Poppy that's just really cute, very modern looking little embroidery kits. Sometimes embroidery is a cool idea, but the actual thing you end up with feels not quite my style. And I really like a lot of these. And it looks like they have really thorough video tutorials so you can walk through each step, which I think is really neat. There's this one which offers gorgeous looking weaving kits. So if you want to make one of those beautiful wall hangings you've seen or macrame pieces, it looks like the quality of the loom that they send you and the pieces are really nice. And these are just beautiful. This is the kind of stuff that you can justify spending a little bit more because these are genuinely pieces of art that I would be proud to hang. And then you can say you made them. These are neat. You can choose your own color palette for the yarn, and you can have a little bit of control of the actual style, so you can actually make something that feels really unique and custom to you and is a little bit more elevated. What a cool project. On the total other end of the spectrum, you've probably seen ads for these things called woobles. That are these little kits of little crocheted animals you can make. They're freaking adorable, and they look really like easy and accessible. They're fairly cheap, and I love the idea that without too much time, you can make a little animal buddy. Sometimes the hard part is always knowing like where to put something, and I feel like these guys are very easily giftable or just kind of like tuck aroundable, and I feel like it's a really satisfying little project that you can feel really accomplished, even if it's not like the most elevated craft you've ever seen. This just sounds fun. I mean, look at that fox. I just need him. For something a little bit more unique, have you heard of something called bargello? This was a type of needlecraft that was popular in the 60s and 70s. You've probably seen some of these pieces floating around a thrift store, but I think it actually looks like a really neat style, and I think it is due a resurgence. I love this company because the things they're making feel really modern and very accessible, but it feels like a totally different style of craft. And I love anything that you can end up making like a physical object that feels kind of practical, because then I know what to do with it when I'm done. And I have things laying around my house that I made, which just gives me like a sense of accomplishment that I'm very into. If you've ever just wanted to get into knitting, I love this site, We Are Knitters. They have a ton of resources, really beautiful yarn, and they have beginner kits at very different levels where you can pick this specific thing you want to make, like a full item of clothing, like a hat or a scarf or a sweater, and then have all of the things you need to actually make that thing happen. So if you've ever wanted to get into knitting, but it feels a little bit daunting, hi. This feels a bit like a gateway drug that actually holds your hand into this whole world. Some might say cult of knitting. And the pieces you can end up with are not just like little things, they're like big projects that are really beautiful. Look how pretty this chunky scarf is. I love this wool and I would happily wear this. So I feel like you would end up with like a sense of accomplishment. But at the end of the day, if you decide knitting is not for you, you haven't invested a ton in a lot of different materials and yarns. You have this one set of supplies, you made this one thing, and you don't have a ton of waste. Stitch and Story is another one I've seen a lot that offers a lot of different types of supplies. So if you want to try a particular thing in knitting or crochet or cross stitch, you can buy individual pieces without having like a long-term commitment. The last one in this category is a little bit different. This is called Waddle and Loop, and they call these slow stitching kits. I just think these are totally different than anything I've ever seen. They feel really creative and tactile and something I would just love to have in my home. I just think this is gorgeous and very different than what I have in my brain as like a little embroidery project. Sometimes the act of the thing is the point and the end product is not really that impressive, but these are so beautiful. They would make a gorgeous gift, and I just feel like you'd be proud to display them. Okay, my last category is just kind of everything else, so I'm calling this like grab bag creativity. These are ones that I found that are specific, but in a whole bunch of different fields. They're more about like giving you materials to actually do something with your hands than like the end thing you're going to display. First off, What about Paint by Numbers? I love this company called Paint Like Frida. I love the design. I think the branding's really cool. There's something really fun about that idea. But personally, when I've looked around at Paint by Numbers kits, a lot of them are kind of tacky, and I don't really love the end product. So I love this company. I think their design is really fun. I love their branding, and I think the actual pieces are really beautiful. And I would actually be happy to hang some of these. They're just a little bit more elevated of an experience, and it doesn't feel quite so silly. For some reason, the idea of sitting around as an adult doing Paint by Numbers when the whole thing feels a little bit more branded and cute makes me feel still a bit like an artist. On a similar level of silly, do you remember gem painting from when you were a kid? Those little beads that you would stick onto a sticky mat and turn into like a little shrinky dink? This company makes like really neat looking ones that are actually really elevated and beautiful. Last year, I bought 3 of them. I bought 2 of their houseplant ones and their mushroom kit. And it's my favorite thing to do when I'm watching a movie because it's very like tactile, but I don't have to think about it at all. So I can sit there and just make a little chanterelle mushroom, and I end up with like a cute little piece at the end, and it feels really satisfying. There's something really physical about the act of it that makes me feel like I'm 10 again, and I just kind of love them. And then there's this cute company that makes at-home pottery kits. Now, obviously, this is not kiln-baked pottery. This is either oven-dried or air-dried, but the projects they make are really cute. The materials feel pretty nice and pretty high quality, and they also make kits that you can do either by yourself or with someone else or with a group. So you can have like a fun little craft night with friends or with a partner. This would make a really cute date night. And I just like how neatly everything is packaged. So if you want to try your hand at this, again, that everything is kind of ready for you so you can see if you even like it. And I feel like it's really satisfying. I also really love these that are candle kits. So it's kind of a 2-part thing where you make the vessel and you pour a candle. So you end up with a really functional piece at the end. Fun is that. You can choose your color palette, so you end up with paint that you'll actually use and colors you actually like. You can pick your fragrance scent, so you actually have a candle that you will burn. I just think these are really nice. There's also this company that has at-home kits, so that you make things out of air-dried clay and let them dry. Or you're actually buying made pieces that are fired, so they're a little bit more sturdy, but then you're painting them yourself. So you can have fun with like a mug or a vase, but then you actually have like a usable thing afterwards. And it's just a little bit more about like playing around and painting, and that just seems really relaxing and fun. So those are some of my favorite kits I've found to inspire creativity and kind of get you going, making some stuff for fun. I'd love to hear which ones are your favorites, and if there are any of these you want to see me actually make, we can do that together. That would be a lot of fun. Let me know which ones you want me to try, and I'll do a little review. See you next time.